Hello, I'm Harry Stachini and you are listening to the Staff Room Podcast, the show where each week I share anonymous stories from teachers who are overworked, underpaid and close to a mental breakdown. So think of it as teacher therapy, as they remind us of all the troublemakers, class clowns and the flat-out criminals we all remember from school. So join me and my guests and hear what your teachers really have to say. Episode number 17 of the Staff Room Podcast. How's it going, everyone? I hope you are well. I'm leaving this late, I'll be honest. I'm recording this intro at 36 minutes past 8 on a Thursday night, right? This thing should have been uploaded by now, right? And that gives you some indication of how this week has gone. I mean, it's not been a horrendous week, but it's just been a busy week. One of them weeks that didn't start very well, okay? We kind of got to go back to Saturday, and I realised Saturday's not the start of the week, but it was the start of, you know, the situation that we're in now. Basically, I went out for a few drinks with a few comedians, not seen them in a while. I'd not had a few drinks in a while. Started at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, went to a pub, had a burger, had a few scoops there. At 5 o'clock, I remember leaving the pub. I was feeling pretty good. You know, we were a bit pissed, but I remember leaving and we went into a bar that was an underground bar, and that is where things went seriously wrong, because there's no windows in an underground bar, so you lose track of time altogether. The only thing that I have of record of that experience in that underground bar is the bank balance that I looked at the following day, and I was in a bad way the following day. But yeah, that bank balance, that could have brought me to tears. I've not spent that much money on a night out ever. But yeah, let's just rewind quickly before we get to the horrendous hangover of Sunday. So we came out of this underground bar. In my mind, I thought this could have been 8-9 o'clock, but I think it might have even been earlier. And we went straight into karaoke. So this is a Saturday night, you know, during the panny day, and we're doing karaoke. I absolutely murder Casey and the Sunshine Band, right? And I don't mean murder like I've killed the song. I mean I butcher it. I've seen the video that Erica took of me, and Jesus Christ, like, some people have said I give off dad vibes, and I watched that video back and I'm like, I am a man who has twins. I mean, my dancing is appalling, the singing is appalling, and it terrifies me to watch it back. I'd rarely get uncomfortable looking at myself, you know, or I can laugh at myself, but how bad I felt the following day when I look back at that video was pretty bad. And then the bank balance on top of that. But just to give you some idea of how rough it was for me on Sunday, which started a very tough week, which I had loads of shit to do, as well as get over the hangover, which I only got over as of, I would say realistically, Monday night, okay? But Sunday, my girlfriend found me absolutely bolloco, right? Laid out on top of a towel on the landing with vomit all over my feet that had dried, thankfully. But the dog was just sat next to me and he was crying because she told me he thought I was dead. So that should give you some indication as to how this week has started, you know what I mean? Albeit Saturday's not the start of the week, but Monday I was still hungover, and that is the reason why at 39 minutes past 8 o'clock I'm recording this intro when this fucking episode should have been uploaded maybe yesterday or the day before, because as a dad I like to be prepared, right? But the kids were out of town and I let my hair down and it got a little bit too much, and now I'm getting texts from NatWest saying, you've got until 3:30, Harry, to pay us. So that should give you some indication to how this week has gone. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm not in a bad place now, but Monday especially, but just feeling drained, you know. But I hope everyone is well nonetheless, because I've got a great episode lined up for you today, and my guest is Mr. Eric Rushton, former Leicester Mercury Comedian of the Year, right? He won it in 2020. It's a very prestigious award, right? This has been won by like Romesh Ranganathan, Jason Manford, you know, some big names. So I've even had Jack Leto first guest of the podcast, he won it. So it's one of them awards that if you're doing that and you're winning it, chances are you're not going to be working in a school forever, which is relevant because I found out Eric actually has worked in schools. I didn't know that about him. We get into his school days as well. He's apparently a bit of a Dell boy, but I'll let all of that come out within the episode. Just know that he's had some positive experiences in school and some really shitty experiences in school, both as a student and as a teacher. But still, it's made for interesting listening. So very excited to have Eric on the show. I also gigged with him a couple of weeks ago, and I was just pissing my pants watching him. So I thought, I've got to get him on. And now that's happened, and it's made for a very fun episode. Now, the story I've got for you today has come in from a teacher who I take me out of to be honest, because it's their first day of teacher training, and it is one hell of a first day that they're on. Like, I've had a lot of first days in a lot of different jobs, and if I was them in that situation, and I got the news that they did when they first arrived, I think I would have left the school pretty sharpish. But no, they were like, I'm going to see this day through, because they knew that one day some man out there was going to be starting a podcast called The Staff Room, and he was going to need stories. So they thought, you know what, I'll do this day, I can get this story, and I can email this absolute nutter who lives in Salford, and we can make an episode with Eric Rushton. Because that's how intuitive they are, right? And it's made for a very good episode. So thank you very much for sending that story in, the teacher, for this week. Because, yeah, as I say, I do take my hat off to you. And I hope everyone that is listening so far is interested enough to know where this is going to go. But we will get cracking. So without further ado, this is me, Eric Rushton, and one hell of a first day. Enjoy. And so there's a short story, and then I've got a teachers in the news section, which I think will be interesting to get your thoughts on, because it's about a head teacher from Birmingham.
Okay.
Which is where you're based, right?
Yeah,
Birmingham? Yeah. But I'll give you the overview.
I hope it's
of the
someone
context.
I know.
If it is, you definitely won't agree with them. Or you might, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the context is, it's the first day for a teacher on teacher training, and they're working in quite a rough school with a very challenging class. Okay?
Right.
So just to give you a bit of an overview of what the story is for today. But then with every guest that I get on, I've always have a bit of a chat with them about their school days, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll take a bit of a punt at the top to try and guess, and I've been like 95% right with everyone.
Right.
I think for you that school days were middle of the road, right?
Right. Okay.
I can't imagine you got any grief. I imagine you kind of kept your head under the radar, but were like cheeky with people.
Yeah, I was quite cheeky. I was a bit cheeky with teachers sometimes, but not. I wasn't like the naughty kid, but yeah, I was hopefully the funny kid. I was actually I was the Dell boy, if you can believe it. I was selling sweets and like
driving a 3-wheel van.
Yeah, onto school grounds. No, but I don't know if you got time for this, but it got ridiculous. I would come to school with like 4 bags full of like chocolate and cans, and at one point bacon, like warm bacon and sausage butties. And I was making there was this period where I was making like 50 quid a day.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And then the teachers would find out, but I was like one of the best grades in the school. So they'd tell me off, but I don't feel like they were as hard on me as if I was like one of the naughty kids. And then I just kind of like stopped doing it for a couple of days and then start it up again.
Yeah, he's the reason our Ofsted rating is so high. Okay. So that's 50 quid a day.
At its peak, yeah. I got a bit flash because I was a bit sort of, my mum and that was sort of were working class and not that much money, but I was like buying ping pong tables and shit. And I bought like a PSP and yeah, man.
How much money do you think you made then how many years did you do it?
I did it from like the end of the year 9 all the way through to the end of 6th form. But in 6th form, I did it on quite a bit of a smaller scale. I just like, I'd have a few treats in my bag if anyone wanted them. I'd say peak business was like year 10, man. I made a few a few grand probably. I bought a season ticket to Man United. I'm a Man United fan.
Fuck off, really?
Yeah, no. Well, yeah. I went with my mum and that. Well, she bought her own and that, but yeah, we got like tickets to football, man. I was like,
it's unreal. I thought, most kids might go and buy trainers, but yeah, what have you bought? Season tickets?
Yeah.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
So, what were your big sellers? Bacon butties.
So, well, this is it. My mum even started help. My mum would cook the sausage and bacon butties, and I'd have them in this. And it was ridiculous how I thought I could be discreet at all because I smelled of bacon and sausage, like especially the first lesson of the day. Bacon and sausage butties. Yeah, they were. I feel like I stopped doing them at some point because that became too much effort. They'd sell I think I'd sell them for £1 each. Chocolate bars would be 50p. Tell you what was a good chocolate bar. I think they still do them. It used to be very popular amongst my customers. Terry's chocolate orange bars. Have you ever had that?
Still do.
Yeah, they were very good sellers. My mum would like find cheap places to buy shit. She'd be like, go to Own Bargains and be like, all these are well cheaper. Do you want me to get them? And she'd get that, and she'd get loads of cans of like Coke and that.
That's unreal. So you and your mum are bleeding money out of the school.
Oh yeah.
So where would you sell it? Just like round the corner, or
So no, in the playground and like outside, and sometimes like in between lessons and that. And that's why it'd get nervy at times because like, kids would be coming up to me trying to get me to sell them a chocolate bar in lesson, and I'm like, I've got to be discreet here, mate.
Yeah.
I had multiple. There was a time where it probably taught me a lot about kind of sticking up for myself because people were trying to rob shit off me all the time as well. I probably should have got some security.
Muscle.
Yeah. Like one time I was, can I swear on this?
Yeah,
I think I probably already have. Yeah. One time I was taking a shit, which is a whole nother thing. I was someone that would do that at school. A lot of people are like, "What? You took a shit at school?"
Yeah. No. You're probably wiping your ass with a £20 note.
I was sat on the toilet. Hand comes under the cubicle door, pulls my bag full of shit, and they start running off with it. I pull my pants up and like run after them. And then I think a teacher comes out, so they drop my bag, and we just kind of like pretend like nothing happened.
And then you went back and wiped your ass.
Yeah, I can't. I was talking to this story, I think, on my podcast. I assume I went back and wiped my ass. That is not in my memory. I hope I did.
You had the merchandise.
Yeah, that was my priority.
That's unreal. So a few grand across the time period, season tickets
which isn't. Well, I suppose it is loads. It isn't loads, I guess. Compared, like I suppose a student with like a part-time job would probably make a few grand.
So you're making like £80 to £100 a week type thing.
Yeah. At the peak. Yeah. For me at that time, like I didn't have pocket money or anything like that growing up. So I was like, this is fucking wicked.
Yeah, and now all your pocket money was wrapped in elastic bands.
I was genuinely like, yeah. Have you seen Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
You know when like Skylar starts getting involved and stuff like that. That was like my mum.
That's fun. I would never have guessed that you were the kid that sold sweets. We never actually had anyone that sold sweets at our place. But I know, like what you said there, 50p.
Yeah.
I think that's relatively cheap because I do know of people that's been like, it's £1 for, like one multi-pack chocolate bar.
Yeah.
It's £1 to buy for 4, but
No, I'd put 50p, yeah. Maybe I could have made more, but I valued my customers, so.
Valued your customers, and you had no muscle. Imagine if you like paid off a teacher,
yeah,
and you had one of them standing next to you.
Well, there was a couple of teachers that liked me, obviously, I shouldn't have said that, but like that knew about it but just didn't care. And there was a teacher that would like buy crunchies off me.
Well, do you know what? I think if it's done in a way that's subtle, right, then like I've looked the other way on occasions within schools where I just think like they're just being kids, and it's not as extreme as, well, say extreme like people selling stuff, but you've got like kids, you're always told in school, go on out the toilets onto the playground, that type of thing. If it's just like 4 of them stood there and just like, they're just having a chat, you know what I mean? It's not like they're throwing shit at the ceiling. You know, if they were racking up lines on the top of the toilet, I'd go, right, boys, you need to go out. All right, okay.
Yeah.
This is not okay. And where did you get that from? Right. But that's right. That's insane. So, you say then a bit cheeky with the teachers.
Yeah, I think so. I think I was. Yeah, I can't. I wish I had examples, but I just think I was a bit of a like. You know, not like not the naughty kid that I. You know what I hate, because I've done supply teaching and stuff, and I've been in schools where kids think they're funny and they're not, and they just say stuff that doesn't make sense, and it's just disruptive for the sake. I don't think I was like that. I think I like to think I was genuinely quite comedically adept in my heckles of teachers.
We had a teacher who was very small, and every time she'd try and reach to the top of the board, someone would make like a stretching sound, like
right,
just really quietly, and that was it was kind of like you get a chuckle from people around you, but I never think she never cottoned onto it. But then if you've taught on supply, are you qualified? Like, have you got a PGCE?
No, so I'm not a qualified teacher, but I've done cover. I think they're just desperate. So, because I've got a maths degree, I think you just have to have a degree to do like cover teaching. But I've been to some. I'm intrigued by what this story is going to be with this rough school, because I've been to a few like that in Birmingham, because they just send you anywhere. And like I got like a bottle thrown at my head once, like a Lucasade bottle, just chucked at my head, and like
for any reason.
Yeah, and then I can't remember. I just know. I just think for a laugh for them.
All right.
And then like,
said, look, mate, it's 50p.
You know what annoyed me though? That was the kind of school where I think it was like they wanted me to just go and be in the room and
babysit,
survive it. Because I was like getting on call and stuff like that, and I was like, all right, we're gonna have to report this to the office and that. And then I like rang the agency after, and they said like the feedback was quite bad for me, or like I was like, what? And I think that the reason it was is because, you know, I had to get members of their staff to come in and take students out and stuff. But like, if they're being violent, I'm not just going to leave them in the classroom.
Yeah. So what year group's that then?
I think that was probably a year 11. It was definitely year 10 or 11.
Right. And is this like in the last few years?
About before the pandemic, I think that one was. Right. Yeah.
The Panny D. Someone said to me the other day. It's the first time I've heard that. Yeah. Panny D. Right. Okay. So he threw a bottle at you. So what was your reaction to that?
I think. Well, there was laughter in the classroom. I remember that. I think my immediate. I'm probably not how you would expect. Maybe I'm quite strict in terms of. I'm like, right, you know, get out kind of thing, and I'm quite. I like to feel like I hold my own. I think I'm quite, because supply teaching can be pretty rough.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Like they'll just what? Have you ever done supply?
No. I've never worked on supply.
I've had it before where they're excited for a lesson of like trying to take the piss out of you. Like I'll sort of walk up to the classroom, and then all the kids will be lined up outside the door, and they'll look at you and they'll start celebrating because they haven't got their normal teacher. They're like, "Oh, we got you, sir. Yes." I'm not saying like we've got you, sir, and celebrating because that's going to be wicked. Yeah. You look like a mint teacher. They're like, we're going to take the piss out of you for the next hour. So it's been good for building up a little bit of resilience, I think.
Have you ever had so you had the bottle thrown at your head? So like, if you say you're quite strict, then is it like no nonsense? Because if someone did that, yeah, I'd say leave the class. But do you ever give warnings, or is it just?
No, I'm a big warning. Right, you're on C1 now. C1, C2, or whatever the amber.
Amber. Amber is the one we use.
Yeah, we've had. Yeah, I have to just use whatever the school is that I'm at. Like, yeah, they're all the same thing. Like traffic lights or warning, C1, C2.
I had I heard a story, should I say, from a head teacher who I worked with, and he was so mellow, right?
Yeah.
Like I thought he had a really good style about him and his approach to dealing with difficult kids. But he was just, I'd never seen him lose it. You know,
Yeah.
I'd seen him get firm, but never seen him blow up. And like some of the kids he was dealing with, you think, fucking hell, like you
To
need
be
to.
fair,
Really
I don't know if
grab
I blew up. I think maybe firm would be the right
firm, right?
Yeah.
But he was like, yeah, I just said to him, I was like, I've never seen you lose it. And we weren't in a school at this point. We were actually at a staff do, so we were having a bit of a chat. And he said to me, he said, yeah, well, I lost it once early on in my career. And he said, and I just didn't like how it made me feel. And I said, oh, right, well, what happened? He said, well, I was leading the class and there was a kid sat at the front, right, who was doing this. Right, for the benefit of the listener, you describe that as licking a bird out, the
Right,
the old,
okay,
the old tongue between the two fingers, licking a bird out. Mum, if you're listening, I do apologise.
Yeah.
But the little kid was doing that, and he took the boy outside and bollocked him in the corridor and said, if you carry on doing that, I'm going to shove your fingers up your fucking nose, right? And I was like, that is hilarious. And said, I didn't know you worked in secondary schools. And he said, it wasn't a secondary school.
Wow.
And I was like, Christ almighty. And it was such a U-turn on the person that I knew him to be, you know, in his teaching method. But it proper made me laugh when he told me. But yeah, I've never...
How did he not get fired?
I don't know. He was very, very, very good at his job. But
yeah, that's funny though.
Okay, so did you have any like memorable troublemakers? Because obviously the story today does feature one.
As a when I was at school.
Yeah.
See, I like I said before, I didn't rate the troublemakers because a lot of the troublemakers in art school weren't very funny. Like,
right,
kind of just annoying, like, a bit like I would class the what you just described, the licking a bird out, as not that funny. A bit hack.
Yeah,
there's not enough originality in students. I don't think so. There's no one I want to give the credit to from my child.
Imagine that if the kid was doing that and then 3 cards went up around the class. Yeah, you've got to go, my friend.
Okay, I'm intrigued by this story.
Well, I'll get cracking with it. As I say, it's only a nice little short one for the Teacher's Tale this week. But they've started with, hello, the staff room. It was my first day of teacher training in a primary school in quite a rough area. Before I went into the school, I was given training on how to restrain kids, which is called Teen Teach. Have you ever done that? No,
I've not done. I've been in school. I've been in sort of SEN schools where restraint's been needed, but I've not done that specific.
I'm all tooled up with my Team Teach. It's good. It's good to know. But at the same time, when someone's kicking off, you're just thinking, I'll do anything to make you stop. Right?
Oh mate, I got this is a separate bottle incident. I had a kid that I was working with, 2 to 1, 2 TAs to.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. That's tough.
And he had a bottle like this. A sort of metallic bottle. I forgot that this was audio, and he smashed it over my head. And there
Jesus.
And there was like a cut. I had to go to get it seen. It wasn't like serious, like wasn't too deep or anything, but like.
What did you know it was coming?
He was kicking off. Yeah, he was getting like violent and that, but I wasn't expecting him to just wing that at my head, and I don't know why he was allowed to have a bottle like that. And I fell to the ground. It was like a proper, proper came out like, whoa.
So hang on, what happened in the build up to that?
I'm trying to think. He would. Okay, so he had like complex needs, and he would. I think we were probably trying to get him to do an activity, and he would like to sit by the window and throw he'd like rip up little bits of paper and throw it out the window. That was just like he just loved doing that and watching the cars come past. And I think we were trying to get him to do an activity, and it just kind of escalated quite quickly. Like he just really didn't want to do it, and then he went a bit violent and hit me on the head. Yeah. I was but I didn't really like working there at all at that school, and there was a part of me that was buzzing because I was like, I get to go home now. And you know your job's bad where it's like preferable to sustain a serious head injury.
Yeah.
And stay there for the day.
Yeah, then do the afternoon. That's fair enough. 2-1 is difficult because you've got to look at it as like if you're, I've worked with kids that require 2-1, and if you're like 12 and you require 2 adults around you at all times, that sends a signal out to everyone else that you can fuck shit up, right? Because you require the strength of 2 grown men to stop you from kicking off. Right. So to give you some idea of how rough it was, when I arrived, I wasn't allowed straight into the class and had to wait in the reception area because one of the boys in year 3 had brought a bread knife in from home and was flashing it around in the classroom trying to attack people.
Fucking hell.
I know, yeah. I feel like if I was in the reception and they told me that, I'd just be like, I'm going to go. You know what I mean? It's the £75 a day you're paying me is not worth the stitches. But yeah, eventually I was allowed to go in. But the moment I saw the class I'd be working with, it was total mayhem and looked like a scene from Lord of the Flies. The kids were swearing, shouting at each other and sat across the tables and all wearing odd uniforms. The teacher I'd be working alongside was failing to get hold of things and looked like she couldn't give a shit anyway. To her, it was just another day.
Yeah.
I later found out she was due to leave that year, which explains a lot. Now, I don't like condone the fact that teachers just like, I don't really give a shit. But when you're around behaviour like that so often, it does just become normal.
No, I've got like that as a supply teacher. We've been going to the same school every day where I've not been able to make an impact on the behaviour. It's just like, just give up eventually, essentially.
Yeah.
And
it's a weird thing because I worked in a PRU, right? And I was there. I worked in a few, but I remember being in this one. I think it was for a couple of days, and they took like a group of the kids on a school trip. And I say school trip loosely there. It was just like a walk down the canal. And I wasn't part of the group, but the group I was with were meant to be going next, right?
Yeah.
And they came back within 20 minutes, and this teacher wasn't like making a big song and dance about it. She's like, well, we can't go back to the canal now because so-and-so's been swinging off the canal bridge. And it was just like, oh, right, okay, So, and you got to bear in mind, like, you've only got 5 kids there to 3 members of staff, but if 5 kids are swinging off a bridge on a canal when they're meant to be looking at the wildlife, I don't think it's worth taking anyone else out. But stuff like that, they would just, if it happens in a normal mainstream school, you can imagine they'd be like, right, let her home, you're going home for the rest of the day. But they were just like, we're just going to go back now, like, you just ruined it. It's like, he's You've literally swinging from a canal.
That reminded me that, I don't know why, that school trip, that reminded me of, there was a school trip when we were getting an Ofsted inspection when I was at school, at my school growing up, when I was in year 11. The day the Ofsted inspection happened, I never knew if this was a rumour in the school, but apparently all the naughty kids got taken on a trip to McDonald's, so they weren't around the school that day. And there was like, people were like kicking off, man, like about it.
That, to be fair though, I know of other places that have done that where they'll round up all the nut jobs and just say, right, you go into, Formby Beach for the day. Yeah. Because why not? If they're out the situation, they're not going to cause any trouble. Sneaky. But yeah, I can understand people going like, he's a dickhead all year and he's getting a fucking, quarter pounder. Was it a quarter pounder Big Mac?
Yeah.
But yeah, so they've continued here. Where was I? She was due to leave, which explains a lot. After a few moments, I noticed one kid was sitting quietly reading. He was in a full uniform and didn't look like he belonged there at all. I picked up on him straight away and said, look, everyone, this young boy is sitting there absolutely perfectly, so I expect the same from everyone else.
I can't wait to hear what this kid's done.
Amazingly, they all copied him and sat quietly. That's quite bold, that, to walk into a class where...
Yeah, no, I like their balls on that. Is this going to be a happy ending? I'm expecting there to be a twist in this time.
And they all went home at the end of the day, absolutely fine.
Very keen readers.
Yeah, exactly. Kid
That's
with
a good book, a good fiction book, by the way, Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, I watched that as a play when I did drama in year 11.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was very good.
Have you read the
second
book?
row as well. No.
We did it for GCSE, like the book. Yeah.
Yeah, we did an Inspector Calls. That was our one.
Classic. I love that we've all got. I love that about like GCSE English. We've all got this shared knowledge of like, yeah, we did Inspector Calls or A View from the Bridge and Of Mice and Men. It's like the same 4 books that everyone in the country knows about because they had to do it at GCSE English.
I've actually still got my copy of Mice and Men from GCSE with like highlighted sections.
I actually think Of Mice and Men's a banger. I think it's
great.
Yeah,
Curly's like because he's always wearing gloves because he's got like soft hands.
Glove full of Vaseline.
Yeah. But I tell you what, speaking of Mice and Men, my dad, right, who you might have actually seen me do material about this a couple of weeks ago, but throughout lockdown, he got 2 bunny rabbits. And he's become like so infatuated with them that he just sends me videos and like messages, literally not as bad as it was, but like it used to be every other day.
Yeah.
And he was the Lenny, within that relationship. Right. But I've never really had a bond with rabbits, but for a man that I wasn't allowed a hamster as a pet, right? And you got to realise that now he like lets them in the house, they sit on his head, and it's just like
right. No, he doesn't crush them to death, does he?
No. He only does that to marriages.
Interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, personal relationships that aren't wildlife. Right, okay. So, amazingly, they all copied him and sat quietly. I introduced myself. I said, "My name is Mr. Coleridge." Now, I've had to change this for the purpose of not losing my job, but the point is still the same. At that very moment, the little bookworm put his hand up. I asked him, "What's up?" He replied, "Is that like Samuel Taylor?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Samuel Taylor Coleridge, the poet who wrote Rime of the Ancient Mariner." Now, I tried not to show how shocked I was that this 7-year-old boy knew of a classic poet that I'd only learnt of during my A-level English. I could tell that he knew I was taken aback.
I'm loving this at the moment.
However, he mistook my confusion at who Samuel Taylor Coleridge was and began quoting Rime of the Ancient Mariner. I was blown away, right? I've had to Google this poem as a result of, them sending me this email.
Yeah.
And it's a fucking huge poem. It's got like 6 parts to it. And a lot of like thou, thee, and all that. It's meant to be an absolute classic.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever...
No, I haven't heard of it. The kids are more advanced than me as well.
But yeah, I can understand why you'd be blown away. Mm-hmm. So I asked him what his favourite book was, and he told me he didn't have one, but was currently working his way through the Charles Dickens collection and really enjoyed them. This kid was a genius, right? After the first lesson, I told the teacher how impressed I was by him, and she said, "Yeah, he's brilliant, but we did also have to take a knife off him this morning."
I love that. That's like that. I'm sure it is true, but that feels like a joke. Do you know what I mean? That's like a well-formed piece of material.
Takes you one way and it goes back the other. But yeah, that's
perfect. That's a perfect short story. I love that.
Yeah. I didn't expect the kid who was because when I first read the email, I was like, "Where's this going to go?"
Yeah.
And I didn't expect it to be.
No, exactly. I almost feel like, well, great email.
It almost makes sense now why all the other kids kind of sat down when he got pointed out, because they must have thought, if we don't follow suit, he's going to absolutely do us in, this lad.
Yeah.
But yeah, and reading's a great habit as well, because if he ends up in prison, he's going to be able to do loads of it. So
yeah, exactly.
It's all maybe he's doing it in preparation.
Yeah, a lot of prisoners do get very educated, don't they? With all that time on the hand, he'll be the smart guy. Yeah,
a very good example of that is Malcolm X.
Yeah,
who went to prison as a pimp, and he was like a burglar. He'd done like loads of crimes, and then across 10 years, educated himself and came out as Malcolm X.
Yeah,
fascinating. But yeah, nice little short story, isn't it?
Yeah, I love that.
I would love to know why the kid brought the knife into school. They've not mentioned that within the story.
Yeah,
but if you're a 7-year-old,
was he waving it about like? Or did it say that at the start? Was he waving it about in any threatening way, or was he just going like, "Look, I got a knife"? I can't remember what it said at the start.
It said, I'm pretty sure. Oh right, okay. So yeah, I had to wait in the reception area because one of the boys in year 3 had brought a bread knife in from home and was flashing it around in the classroom.
Flashing it around.
Trying to attack people.
Trying to attack people. Okay.
Yeah, so
that's an amazing. Whoever. He sort of slagged off the teacher in the classroom already, but that teacher's got that kid from flashing a knife about to reading.
Yeah, maybe he was flashing the knife around going, keep the fucking noise down. Yeah, I'm trying to get through this. We don't know.
He's had to stick up for himself.
Yeah, it's a weird one because if you're a 7-year-old and you're taking a knife into school, I'm guessing he must have walked to school on his own. Because if I was holding my mum's hand, she might be like, Harry, any reason why you've got the bread knife in your hand? And he's like, yeah, I've got it just in case you haven't cut my sandwiches.
Yeah.
But yeah. Did you ever have anyone at school who like brought anything shady in? Because we had a lad who accidentally got stabbed in a woodwork lesson with a chisel up the bum. And a kid was messing about, and then the other kid was stood too close to him, and he misjudged it, and he like missed his artery like literally by centimeters. But yeah, he was not in school the next day. Both of them.
Wow. The shadiest was probably me with my chocolate bars. I think with my bacon sarnies. I don't know if there's any knives or anything. I remember teaching. I was teaching at an all boys school, and I don't know if this was like a fad. It sounds offensive what I'm about to say, but there was like, because they were doing it to take the piss as well, which is why it's really offensive. I was teaching a supply lesson, and like one of the lads had like a rape alarm, and it was like going off and stuff like that. Yeah, have you ever experienced that in school? There was like a few of them. I think a few of them had rape alarms, and it was an all boys school, which obviously I know it can go both ways, but
yeah,
it's sort of very.
That must be pretty
quite heavy right wing humour from the kids. I thought
it must be quite a piercing sound, that a rape alarm going.
Yeah,
off.
Yeah.
I've just realised as I said piercing, I was like, it probably wasn't the best term to use there. But
that's the most inappropriate thing I've experienced being brought into school, which obviously it's not inappropriate, for some people. But if you're bringing it into set off in school to take the piss, then yeah.
Are they like do they look like the ones that old people wear around the necks?
I don't know what they look like. I just heard the noise, and then like someone had to come and sort it out, I think.
And then what? And then so when you heard the noise, did you say, "What's that?" And he said, "Oh, sorry, that's my rape alarm."
Yeah, I can't. You know what? I'm trying to think because I'm slightly misremembering. I don't know if it was a noise outside the classroom, and then everyone said it was a rape alarm, but it actually was. It wasn't like it wasn't a fire alarm or anything. It was someone had brought in a rape alarm.
Because I've never heard a rape alarm, but if like you heard a noise that said "Get off me, you bastard," yeah, that's probably a rape alarm. But
yeah.
Just trying to figure it out. So I've with the stories, right? I've been rounding them off with like a teacher or the student. Okay, so who do you think's kind of come off best within this? And there's no right or wrong. For me, I think I like the student in this for the fact that they're a little bit of a little bit aggressive, a little bit of a psycho, but they've also got a very high level of intelligence.
Yeah, I like a troubled genius. My only issue with this is that basically psychopath, sort of them kind of mad people on the internet that like use 4chan and all that, and you're dead into like just because they have all those like, obviously I'm casting a wide net, but if they might have all the like abhorrent views in that, they can be very clever still. So I don't want to mistake the child's intelligence for like, he might be like a fascist in the future. So I don't want to be on record saying what a nice little kid.
If he grows up to be the next Adolf Hitler,
you
go, ugh.
I quite like it, and I hope like what you said. I know you said it as a joke, but that he was just fucking trying to get some order in the classroom so he could get some reading done. Because I like the idea that he's made the most of his circumstance. He's in a rough area. He's got to go to a rough school, but he's got the brains, but he's just got to defend himself as well.
Yeah. Do you think he kind of tucks it into his like little school belt, you know, on the side? Or, you know, maybe he just had it on his back and pulled it over like a ninja? What was,
I'm imagining a bag. It must have been in like a rucksack to be able to get it in, surely. He wasn't just holding it through the door.
He opens his bag, gets out a wooden block with 6 of them in and pulls that one out.
He's got a knife sharpener as well.
Yeah, just you wait, you bastards, right? So you're going with the student on this?
That's what I don't know, because like what I said, it could be a fascist, but I don't know if the teacher came across that well either. Not to.
Well, there's 2 teachers in it, isn't there? There's the classroom teacher. Who's
you know what? I'm going with the classroom teacher that he slagged off because, like I said earlier, she's dealt with a kid with a knife and she's settled him into reading.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm going with that teacher. I'm going with the lazy classroom teacher, the jaded, worn out teacher.
Fair enough. Wherever the kid is now, you know, I hope he's doing very well. And if he is listening to this podcast, just so you know, Eric is based in the Midlands area. Have you ever bumped into a kid that you've taught like, outside of school?
You know what? I don't think I have. But I don't drive, so I've often been taking the same bus home as the kids, which I always find awkward.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, and they go, "Oh, sir, turn around, sir," and all that stuff, and I'm just on the bus with my headphones, and I found that, and then which has caused me trouble. Kids I've taught have found my comedy online. Have you had any of that, or do you use a different name?
I use a different name.
Do you use a different name in your comedy or in?
No, Stakini's my real name.
Yeah.
But also as well, trying to, you know, get a child to pronounce Stakini correctly.
Yeah.
I think is an issue in itself.
That's a benefit.
So yeah, I just use a different name. But I've always made it very clear with every school that I've gone to, like this is what I do. And if you're okay with that now, then I'll work here. But you know, if you say, you know, that doesn't suit what we want, then fine, I'll just go somewhere else. But I've never had any issues with it up to this point.
Yeah. Okay. I've had big issues, mate. I'll be honest.
Have you?
Huge issues. If we can get into it,
by all means.
Yeah. So I wish I don't know if it's a bit. Because are you normally at one school for quite a long time? Like,
I have been for the past few years.
Yeah. So I'm in different schools every day, and maybe I could have, you know, told them a different name in the class, but it's more like, you know, I'm Rushton. My name's Eric Rushton that they've booked. You know, it seems like maybe I could just tell the class I'm called something different, but that seems weird.
Well, do you not ever just say on reception, because you have to usually like punch in your name on a sticker or something like that? I just put a different name in, and I make it clear to them. I say, just so you know, like I just use, this is my name I use. I know it doesn't say that on my DBS, and they're like, oh, fine, that's cool.
You know what? Maybe that I might well do that in future. But I've been a bit naive about it, I think. But this year, it's normally been all right. But this year, I was at the same school, or should I say, the start of like the academic year. First sort of half term, I was in the same school every day. It was an all-girls school. And normally I'm in different schools, so the kids don't get that familiarity, and they wouldn't maybe try look me up because I'm just in there for a day. But just before the half term, I think it was the Friday of the October half term, I got loads of likes on an Instagram post, or I think I got a comment, which, you know, with my poor material, is it? that's a red flag to be getting unexpected likes on an Instagram post. I can't remember what it was. I don't know if it was a comment or a like or something. And I was like, who is this? And then sort of the start of the half term, I got a call from my agency saying there's been a safeguarding complaint about you, and they gave me no information. I was like shitting myself. I was like, what? Like,
yeah,
I had to wait for like 24 hours before they told me what the problem was, and I'm like, someone accused me of doing something or something like that. But yeah, then it turned out they'd found my Instagram like content and stuff, and there's like, the podcast I do with my friend Joe. There's just a few clips on there that have like sexual references and stuff like that, and they like flagged it as a safeguarding thing, and they referred it to the police as well.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, and obviously there's no law broken or anything. But the police didn't do anything. But so I was kind of like all like anxious as fuck. I was like, okay. So that school didn't want to work with me anymore, and then the agency didn't want to work with me anymore unless I sort of made my Instagram private and all my comedy things private. But like
defeats the purpose.
The purpose. I'm working as a supply teacher, so I've got money to go and do comedy, and so
yeah, exactly.
The wrong way around to do it. Yeah, so that was bad. And then a student commented on one of my YouTube videos like a few weeks later, basically like, I wish I had the comment. It's really sorry, the tone's gone really kind of serious.
No, I'm interested. I'm genuinely interested.
Basically accusing me of like being a pedo.
A pedo?
Yeah, well, like, so I think there was a rumor going around about why I was fired, because there was like a comment that was like, weren't you the guy that got fired from my school for looking up the girls' skirts and all that?
Okay, now.
Yeah, so I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I contacted the police and reported it.
Yeah.
So I reported that to the police. The police haven't really done anything, because it happened a couple of times where like kids just commented on my Instagram going like nonce, and I just blocked them. So I reported it all to the police, just so there's a record. I know this story's crazy. and then because on my Facebook page, my phone number was on my Facebook page, like my comedian Facebook page, a mum rang me and started like shouting at me over the phone.
Did you say, look, do you want to book me or what? Right, okay.
One of the things really made me laugh though, because she was going on about my podcast that I do with my mate, and she goes, you and your little mate, and you know what? It's only got 36 views. I was like, I'm trying. It's hard.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's crazy.
So then after that, I worked in a school after that a little bit, on supply. But since then, I've just done. I might go into schools again, like you said, with a different name. But I've just done one-to-one private maths tuition now, and tried to sort of start my own tuition kind of.
Yeah, I see a lot of people doing that.
Which is like some of the times. So some of those, I don't really tell them that I do comedy, but most of them already know, because I've posted about it on Facebook, or the friends of friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or a couple of comedians' kids I've been tutoring as well. So that was quite a. Yeah, it was a really bad experience, because like, I mean, I know I'm now talking about it on a podcast, but the idea that someone could have saw that, or like saw those kids' comments and thought like, you know, that was real, legitimate. And how that could have affected like my comedy and stuff. And it's like, I've literally just, all I've done is make a podcast and gone and done some supply teaching. And it's like, this just got really out of hand. And yeah, it was quite an overwhelming like time.
So that was from September last year.
That was all about the sort of October, November of 2020. Yeah, that kind of half-term period and a few weeks after.
Yeah. That is intense, that, because I know I've spoken to Freddie Quinn about his experience of working in schools, and how they've thrown him out of places because they found out about his stand-up.
Yeah.
But that's why I've always been very like upfront, and it's not a case of me going, take it or leave it, but it's just like, this is what I do. I'm doing this for this reason. So, don't expect me to be bending over backwards. But while I'm here, I'll do the job and I'll do it to the best of my ability. But, like, this is what I do in an evening. And like,
I think that's the best. I did that with the next, because I worked at an SEN school for like a couple of months after. And I told them about it and stuff like that. I even told them about, like, in detail what happened with the
Because I
kids.
can imagine something like that it gets to a point when you go, like, this is not even worth the hassle now, but it's the stress and the worry that would come from, that time period of, like, having a mum scream down the phone.
Yeah,
I can understand.
And she would say, which this is what I got proper anxious about. She didn't follow up with it, thankfully, and obviously, it's not true, but she was saying stuff like, "Oh, I've seen pictures of you at the Glee Club at Hot Water. They're all going to know about you." So she was sort of threatening that she'd contact comedy clubs and start mouthing off about me.
You'll be able to definitely in the future turn that into a piece of material within a show. 100%. But yeah, that's a hell of a shit experience.
Yeah. It was just bizarre.
Yeah, it sounds it. Because do you not ever think about working within primary schools? Because by doing that, you already eliminate the access to phones, and that was like my angle within it.
That's quite a good idea. Yeah, because I think it's like they sort of year 10, 11, they're just looking for ammunition on you, aren't they, all the time? Especially if you're like a supply teacher. Like, I don't know. Like I said, they want to disrupt the lesson, so they find out that you're this comedian or whatever. And they've all.
Have you ever had, like? Do you get the things like, "Oh, tell us a joke, sir," or that type of thing? Yeah,
I've had that a little bit, but I just ignore them. I just literally pretend not to hear.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Well,
there was one at a school that found out it before that, which is a much nicer story. I thought of a kid commented on one of my YouTube videos, like a stand-up video, going, "You're a hopeless teacher, but I respect the grind." Or that, something like, "You're a hopeless teacher, but your jokes respect the grind."
Do you know what? That at least didn't say you're a hopeless comedian.
Yeah, no, I'd rather it be that way around.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, mate, I don't want to be teaching 5 days a week. I want to be doing weekends at this place and that place. But yeah, that's. I'm glad that's ironed out. I do have a teachers in the news section to the podcast, which when someone sends me a news story that I find interesting about a teacher in the news, I just throw it in the show. The first one I did was about a teacher who got fired from a school because on a school trip to Costa Rica, the school had travelled from like Northumberland to Costa Rica. He took some of the kids to a strip club and got horrendously pissed. And it sounded like a hell of a school trip.
How old were the kids?
16. Like it was like a GCSE trip, and I think the teacher was just going through a tough patch in his marriage. But yeah, me and Daniel Muggleton covered it in that episode. But the story I have today, right? The headline for the news story is "Primary School Teacher in Birmingham bans damaging sexist phrases like boys and girls."
Oh no.
So it's. I'll give you a bit of context, right? So Sarah Hewitt-Clarkson banned other phrases such as "man up" and "good morning, boys and girls" due to the concerns that they are sexist. She suggested that the phrases "good morning, everyone" should be used instead of "boys and girls" because it does not create a gender divide and includes those people who might not identify as either sex.
Okay.
Right. She said, "Of course we use the words boys and girls. If you just think about it for a minute, it's a slightly strange way of dividing the room of people, and just saying good morning is far more inclusive." Now, I get a point, right?
I'm going to say so far, actually, I'm not massively against any of this,
okay.
especially with "man up." Like,
yeah, I think the terms like that. I think it's the context of it, right?
Yeah.
And the intent of it, because like when I played football within my team, like there were some people that responded to that really positively.
Yeah.
And then there was other people that you just had to change your approach, but i.e. the context was always different. But if a kid is in a classroom and they're bawling their eyes out because they can't do the work, if you said man up, then I'd go, you're being a bit malicious, because you're not helping the situation. You're just making them feel even sillier.
Mm-hmm.
But I have said in the past to kids in situations like, you need to suck it up. And the context of that being like someone's having a paddy and they have caused it but are not willing to do anything about it, but you just like, and I just go, suck it up, because like, I'm not dealing with it, so-and-so's not dealing with it, you need to sort yourself out there, so suck it up.
I feel like that's different to man up, because man up's like implying that if you're a man you shouldn't be upset, I guess. Like
upset, yeah. I think that's the point she made in it.
Yeah.
But the bit that I didn't agree with, right, was this here. It says, children at the school are taught to hold up posters calling out teachers when they use these banned terms. At the end of each week, 2 pupils reportedly received certificates for flagging out the best examples.
Now this is okay. So, like I said, I was with her. Now it's taken a turn to like East German Stasi.
Yeah. I can imagine like the 2 teachers being stood at the front of the assembly hall, and then they're tied to the goalpost outside. Stoned to death with beanbags,
like a network of spies now.
Turn
into
It's I don't think that promotes anything positive from,
because now you're literally looking to catch people out.
Yeah. Because it's like that. You're teaching a kid to problem solve in a way that isn't productive. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You're almost like waiting for them to hear the offence in what someone's saying. But like if someone said, good morning, boys and girls, and you were like, you can't say that.
Yeah.
You'd be a bit like, oh, do you know what? Fuck off. Right. You can't say that either. Well, I have. All right. But yeah, I didn't agree with the point she made there. She has. There's more to the article.
Okay.
This is actually following on from what you've mentioned there about how terms that don't benefit, right? Men in a sense. It's like saying to them, they don't need to. If they say man up, it's like, they're not allowed to show emotion, because the head teacher has added that if young boys are not allowed to talk about their feelings, it can be damaging to them later in life. And if sexist language goes unchecked, such as man up, grow a pair, boys don't cry, it's very damaging and dangerous for them. Now, I agree with that. I think that's like a fair comment. But the context.
Although
of
I
it
do quite like
key.
grow a pair. I'm gonna be honest. I quite like grow a pair, because I feel like you can say that to any gender, even though it doesn't make sense. I would say grow a pair to a woman.
But okay, because grow a pair leaps out for me. But I think if
for some reason, man up is what seems worse for me. That seems like more outdated. I don't know.
I don't know. I think man up's worse than grow a pair. I just think grow a pair implies for me, like you just, get some balls about you.
Yeah.
Because you might say that if someone was, I don't know, like, let's all go in the sea. No, I don't want to. Or grow a pair.
That's what I'm saying. It's that I like it it seems a bit more. It's a bit fun. A bit of fun.
Yeah, it's less of a poke on the nose, more of a flick. Like, go on, really be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But you wouldn't say it to like a primary school kid, would you?
No, no. As I'm talking about every day, I guess. As a teacher, probably it's a bit weird.
And that's what I mean. That's the context of it, isn't it? Because if you said that to like a kid in year 4, you were like, grow a pair, and they're like, I literally haven't yet. Right? I'm at the point. I'm waiting to grow a pair. So that's a terrible insult you've given me. But yeah, if it was a football team, teenagers, because I think sometimes as well, when a teacher talks to a young person, right, or even like a kid in a language that they use themselves, it goes in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've said before to kids that have been like 10, 11, I've gone, you must think I'm a massive dickhead. And like they look at you and you go, like, this is the language that you use all the time. And like you throw around words like shit, fuck, and all that. And it's like, you must think I'm a massive dickhead because, I'll talk to you about the issue that's happened, but then you just do it again. And it's like, you've got to sort your attitude out because as you say all the time, it's shit. And when you see them kind of go, oh, right, like, it's because if you're constantly saying to someone, maybe think about how you make other people feel, or it just almost like in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it like fixes it first time around every time, but just, yeah, if you're, I've just seen it where a kid who is using language that a 16, 17-year-old would use when they're like 10, 11, right? Or sometimes even like, 9.
Mm-hmm.
When someone is saying these kind of like sugar-coated phrases, you almost see them like roll their eyes, just like, all right, okay.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to, be like, listen, you little wanker. But
But I think they sense the fakeness of the teacher a little bit. Like, yeah.
It's just like
But that's it. Basically, it sounds a bit fake, I think, when you're sugarcoating it.
Yeah. But there is more to this article as well. There's a bit of backlash from it. Okay. But first thoughts for you, is there anything that you don't agree on?
That I don't agree on. All that I don't agree on. So I'm fine with not using man up. I'm even like saying good morning everyone rather than good morning boys and girls. I think that's fine as well. I think that's probably good. The kind of catch the teacher out if they say it though is I'm definitely against that.
I think it's like switching the power dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah,
it almost like gives them a little bit more. How do you say? Like you shouldn't trust them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's polluting in my eyes. But there was backlash, right? The backlash was that some people said that she was encouraging pupils to be snowflakes, right?
Right.
And by the way, that backlash hasn't come from like Terry, the builder, right? It came from a BBC reporter who I forgot the name of, but saying how it's creating a generation of wallflower kids who are listening out for offence. And I don't think that's a healthy thing to be listening out for offence because...
No, I agree with that, yeah.
Like language changes, I get that. But also context, the intent of it, the delivery of it, it's like how you perceive something and how it's given, can be so far apart. And from a comedy point of view, whenever and I don't know if you feel the same on this, but whenever I do gigs and the audience like uni gigs, right, younger audiences, and they're not I'm 26. How old are you?
25. So
25, right? Yeah. So we're not a million miles away, but like younger audiences, I think can be very quick to offend, and it's it's not that if you're going up there and you're doing like really shit material that is racist and all the rest of it, then like fair enough, but like some subjects you go like, you can't really talk about that.
Yeah, I think that the point about what you're making, the point earlier about context applies a lot in comedy as well, where the audience is almost like the sort of I feel like I've performed to those types of audiences before. They take those words without any context, so it's like if you bring up a certain topic, they'll pull back without even listening to what you're going to say about it, and it makes it really difficult.
Yeah, because I think it's almost like, well, because you've joked about that, you must believe that.
Yeah.
You think, well, no, that's not the case. You can just find something funny. Like I did a joke a few weeks ago about how sex robots are going to become so sophisticated that in the future they're going to bite people in the arse because of how much they remember, and we're going to end up with like a hashtag #R2MeToo movement.
Yeah, that's funny. I like that.
Thank you.
I like that.
And then I've got this whole bit about sex robots, kind of like telling the tales of what's happened to him, because let's face it, as a society, it's men that are going to let people down with what they do to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because soon as you're at the point you're buying one of them, I think you've got to realise whatever you want to do to it hasn't been accepted by anyone who's warm-blooded.
I think that's a great bit. I think that's good.
Well, I did it in Liverpool, so I've done it twice. Right? First time, it murdered, and I was like, hey, well happy with this.
Yeah.
And then the second time, I was like feeling it out, and it was a younger crowd, and there was probably about 20 people in the room. And I got about 4 minutes in and was like, I realise you guys are uncomfortable, but like, I'm going to double down. Like, I'm going to get through the bit. Because it must be like 8 minutes of material on it. And there was this girl sat on a table, and she had such a face on her, And I said to her, do you want me to stop talking about sex robots now, and she just like quietly shook her head. But afterwards, I spoke to someone about it, and I was like, I don't understand. Like, I wasn't saying anything that was like, I like to think they were clever jokes. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like sex robots are slags. It was more the fact that the relationships that human beings will have with them, they'll treat them as an object rather than as a person. But if something becomes so sophisticated, then that's going to sting us in the future.
Yeah.
So yeah, the person that I was doing the material to just didn't see that and thought this guy's an absolute creep.
Yeah, I actually think I think you're taking the piss out of sexism as well a little bit. Like, I think you're on the right side of it, unless maybe you're like, nah. I just find it funny.
Well, no, I do find it funny. I think,
but like, as in you're taking the piss out of like men being a bit disgusting, I think. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, because like let's face it, if it was a choice, but the relationship a man would have with an AI sex robot and a woman would be vastly different.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like men would do horrible things to them, and women would finally have someone who's flawless. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's the difference, isn't it? But I wasn't able to get to that part of the material because, as I say, there were 25 people that just looked at me like, this guy's unhinged.
Yeah. But, I reckon keep going with it.
Hey, I'm gonna plow on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the teacher in the news, right? So you agree with the fact that boys and girls just change it to good morning, everyone?
Yeah. I'm not too against that. Why are you against that?
No, I'm not. I think
I don't really like making a point out of it, but like, okay,
that's the thing. Don't make a point out of it.
Yeah,
because I think that like kids are so malleable, right? And I'm not saying that they're not able to think for themselves. They can, but if you think back to when you were a kid, the mindset you have now is vastly different to when you were 16, 10 years old, 8 years old, and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And if at 8, 9, 10 years old, primary school, right? So max 11, you are making decisions on things which can have a massive impact on your future. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you are almost encouraged to lean into it, but in a way that I just think it needs to be controlled in a way that you're not making it too confusing or complicated for kids, rather than it being like, how do I say, comfortable in your own skin, 100%.
Yeah.
But don't try and make it that it's like them against teachers.
No, that's it. That's why I agree with you on like the getting the kids to call out the teachers if they say it wrong. It's like, yeah, say good morning, everyone, but you don't have to explain to them that you're saying that because it's bad to say boys and girls. Do you know what I mean? Just say good morning, everyone.
Yeah. I feel like if I was a parent of a kid that was pulling them teachers up, I would be embarrassed picking them up at home time.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. I'm so sorry, miss. Has he done it again? Yeah. Oh, God.
Although on that, like, maybe to be... it's maybe not as connected, but I remember I was working at a school once, an SEN school, and a kid... I was a TA. There's like 4 or 5 TAs in the classroom, and the main teacher. And a kid brought in, like a boy brought in some sort of pink bag, like pink. I can't remember what it was. Some like Disney pink thing. I don't know what character.
Right.
And the teacher like was talking to one of the other TAs, saying, "Oh, he's bringing in that bag. He's bringing in his sister's bag. I'm gonna have to talk to his mum." And it was like they were concerned that he was bringing in this pink bag. And I'm like, what the fuck does it matter if he likes it?
Yeah, it's
like,
just a pink bag.
Yeah. So it's that kind of, because sometimes I get worried, like people, you got one side of it where people are like, seem like overly obsessed with like these different things about gender and that. But then you like, sometimes you do encounter an attitude like that and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no,
Does
I
it
get
matter
that.
if a boy can like a pink character or whatever? I can't even remember what like Disney thing it was, but he probably just likes the bag. It doesn't matter.
No, I 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
if the kid likes the bag, the kid likes the bag. But when and I think it's more so now because kids' eyes are so they're exposed to so much more, right? And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I do think that if at that age you are like so impressionable that you can very easily be led down a path that later on you look at and go, oh, that's not really me.
Yeah.
And I've had kids come up to me when I've been working and say, kind of ask for my opinion on, like gender issues and things like that, but not in a way that is curious, but almost like
trying to catch you out.
Yeah. Because I had a kid come up to me, and she said to me, she was like, "What are your pronouns? Like, what are your pronouns?" I just said, "Sir," just like you can call me sir. And she went, "Yeah, but what are your pronouns?" And I was like, "I'm not having this conversation with you." You know what I mean? It was like I'm not. You don't know me well enough to have a conversation with me about it, and at the same time, the way in which you're asking me isn't coming across in. I was reading between the lines of like.
I definitely think I'm in complete agreement with you on that kind of, and I've seen it myself. Yeah, that trying to catch people out and know all the buzzwords and know all the right words so you can catch out the people that don't say them or whatever or don't know them.
Yeah. Because it's not even just have to be like gender terms, right? It doesn't even need to be that as an example, but language that a teacher uses to a kid where a kid goes like, you can't say that. And, I'm the example that I had in mind there isn't something as extreme as like, you're a cunt. Yeah, you can't say that. But I don't know, for instance, like a donut, a muppet, or, or you div, you know what I mean? That type of thing.
Yeah.
If it's used in a way that it fits the environment, then it's fine. It's fine to say it. But I think kids as well have to understand time and place, because some kids will say things that they think they're being funny and they're trying to be like it's coming from a good place, but the time and the place of it has just come across rude. And the example being, I work with a lad who me and him used to have a laugh about who had the biggest head, right?
Yeah.
And it was always like, no, your head is bigger. And he'd say, no, your head is massive. And I'd be like, no, your head is huge, like, mega mind. And we would always have this back and forth. And then when we were in lessons one day, and bear in mind, I worked with him one-to-one, so the relationship I had with him was very different to everyone else in the class.
Yeah.
And then we were doing a group activity, and the other kids were sat around, and he asked me a question, and I didn't hear him. And then he said it again, but he said, "What do you think, fathead?" Right? And as soon as he said it, he laughed, and the other kids at the table kind of looked to like,
"Yeah,
he's just called Sir Fathead." And I was like, I said, basically brushed it off, and then said to him after, I was like, "Did you notice when you said that everyone else's face on the table?" And he was like, yeah. And I said, "Yeah, because they don't know that you're joking." So the time and the place there is so important.
Yeah.
And even that's like my style to it. But even him having a laugh with his mates about certain things, like the KFC finger licking good, right?
Yeah.
They were having a laugh about that in a way that wasn't talking about the love of chicken. Okay. And I said to them, basically think of the time and the place. Like, where are we right now? Like, there's swings over there. There's a climbing frame. There's paint on. We're on a playground, aren't we? So for the time being, let's not talk about KFC, but meaning this.
Yeah.
And they almost go, "Oh, right, yeah," because you're trying to establish them boundaries, but they're also trying to establish their boundaries. Because even as a kid, I would say things, and then afterwards, my dad would go, that came across cheeky because of the fact you're a kid, and within that environment, it looks like you were being a gobshite rather than trying to be witty.
Yeah.
So,
I still struggle with that. Like, say the wrong things in certain contexts, and like, yeah. I don't think that ever goes. So you have to just improve it.
Yeah, we've digressed massively from the story, but
context. Is there still more of the story?
No, that was it. That was the news story. I just took the text from it. But yeah, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, I really enjoyed that.
I'm glad. Is there anything you'd actually like to plug?
Oh, yeah, okay. My YouTube channel, Eric Rushton. I put all my videos on there. Do
Which are very funny.
little
Definitely go and check 'em
monologues
out.
every week about a different topic, and I've got a podcast with my friend Joe. So yeah, if you enjoy my vibe at all, Eric Rushton on YouTube or Instagram, and I'm on all of them: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just search Eric Rushton, and you probably.
Sweet. I'm about to say I will put all the handles and stuff like that,
all
these
awesome.
social media bits and bobs in the show notes. But yeah, thank you very much for coming on. That
Yeah.
was good.
Thanks.
No,
I don't know.
nice one.
I'm awkward at goodbyes. I don't know how this ends. Do I just leave?
You're going to be here for the next episode. The one
Yeah.
after that. See, I told you it was one hell of a first day. I would love to know if you guys listening would have stayed like this person did, because there's no chance if they told me one of the kids has got a knife, I'd be like, right, okay. So what time's my lunch? I'd be like, yeah, I realise this is training, but funny enough, I've not actually bought me Kevlar today. So, we're not doing this. But I don't know, maybe you're a teacher listening and you would have gone, I've come up against worse. I had a kid come up with a screwdriver. I've mentioned it many times within the podcast, but the circumstances were I didn't know he had it. It just came out of nowhere. But the fact this kid is coming to school tooled up, that's interesting. You can kind of forgive the fact he's clearly a genius, but you wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of him, would you? No chance. But yeah, thank you very much for the teacher that sent that in. I've noticed I've actually had a few more stories come across to me in the past, this week. So thank you very much, whoever that person was. If you are a teacher and you'd actually like to send a story in for season 2, term 2 of the Staff Room podcast, by all means, please do. You can get me at staffroompod@gmail.com. As you well know, it's all 100% anonymous. It's just me reading it out with a comedian guest, and we all have a laugh about it. No one's been sacked, and apart from Eric, which he mentioned, but no one has been sacked. And it's I'm on the hunt for more stories. So if you've got a good one, my voice just cracked. Then I realised that it sounded like I was about to break down. I'm on the hunt for more stories. But yeah, if you've got a story that is worth telling, by all means, please do get in touch, because yeah, I'm going to be back after. I'll cap it at 20 episodes, and I'll come back with a brand new term, and it'll be a belter. So yeah, if you've got a story, send it across to me. Essentially, what a fucking long-winded way of saying send me an email. But yeah, I'll be back next Friday with another new episode. Not too sure what the story is going to be, nor the guest at this moment in time, but there will be an episode nonetheless. So yeah, as ever, look after yourselves. Thank you very much for tuning in. Spread the love, and take it easy. The Staff Room podcast is produced by me, Harry Stachini, artwork by Poppy Spinks, and the soundtrack by James McGraw.